Hello everyone, this is Bruce. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'm going to be covering something that I personally think is super cool. This is something that I've been waiting for about 2.5 months, roughly. And that is actually a brand new keyboard. So today I'm going to be talking about ergonomics. I'm also going to be talking about some really cool new hardware. Today we're going to be talking about the Moonlander keyboard. And as you can see, I actually have this set up on my desk right now. The Moonlander is so cool. Obviously, it is a split keyboard, but it also has a lot of really cool features baked into it right out of the box that easily separates it from other split keyboards. So, before we get into this, I do want to mention the price point for this Moonlander is rather high. It's $365 currently in the US. So, you know, it is an investment, but I personally think it's a wonderful investment into your future health. Ergonomics is, of course, to help you avoid health complications in the future, so things like carpal tunnel or other things that would happen potentially with your fingers. This is supposed to help you avoid those sorts of things, which I think it does a really nice job of, and I'm going to get into the details of why I think that in a second. First of all, one of the really cool features of this Moonlander is that everything about it is completely and entirely configurable. So it's open source, the software, a lot of the hardware is as well, but one of the coolest parts of this is that every key is totally programmable to whatever you want it to be. There are actually 32 layers built into this keyboard, and so let's talk a little bit about what a layer is in the Moonlander world. So a layer is almost like your shift key, or at least how your shift key changes the layers on your keyboard. If you can imagine a letter on your keyboard, such as the letter H, lowercase h, when you click it, it sends a lowercase h to your keyboard. When you press or hold the shift key and you press H, you get a capital H. Same is true for, I don't know, the 4 key, the number 4, and then you hold shift and it's the $sign. Those are two different layers. So the lowercase h is layer 1, uppercase h is layer 2. The Moonlander has 32 of these layers that you can program individually, any of them, to be whatever you want. So each key could potentially be 32 other keys, or 31 rather. It's absolutely astounding the customizability you have with this keyboard. So there are also a ton of extra keys on this board, and we're going to get into a little bit of my configuration. I've spent the last 4 or 5 days configuring this and setting up the layers to be the way I wanted to. I'm sure this will change in the future, but this is what I have so far. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look into this keyboard. Let's take a look at what the layers are, and also let's take a look at some of the ergonomics of this keyboard. Alright, so first of all, you'll notice some very interesting features of this right off the bat. First of all, it's got a thumb cluster, which is what separates this, I think, from a lot of other split keyboards. ZSA, which is the company that creates the Moonlanders, also has another split keyboard called the Ergonomics. Ergonomics also has a thumb cluster section. One thing that separates the Moonlander from the Ergonomics, however, is the fact that the thumb cluster can be moved around to fit your hand, and it's also used to help tent the unit. So the coolest thing about this, in my opinion, is that you can actually fit your whole hand around this keyboard. So you can merge your hand into the keyboard and actually make the keyboard merge with you instead of, you know, you trying to fit into whatever box the keyboard designers gave you. So that's the whole point of ergonomics, right? Is that you get the machinery, you get the computer to work with you instead of you working against it, trying to fight it, because a standard flat keyboard is obviously not the best position for your shoulders or for your wrists or your arms or any of that stuff. So this really allows you to merge into it, which is super cool. It's very comfortable to use. One of the coolest points of this is it also has a tenting kit built in. So the thumb cluster is obviously part of that tenting capabilities. So we'll get into, you know, how you tent this and all that stuff. But if you're familiar with ZSA, you'll know what tenting is. But if you aren't, then tenting is really just the way of taking your keyboard from flat to up like that. So it's an adjustment in your wrist. It's an adjustment in all the bones in your arm that rotates your wrist from here to here. which in my mind is actually a lot more comfortable, and I found that it's a lot more comfortable after having used it for only 4 or 5 days. I tried using my MacBook keyboard the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so uncomfortable. Like, I want to go back to my Moonlander already. So it's very, very comfortable, and you'll get used to it very easily. One thing that you won't get used to is something called a columnar design. And so what that means is we no longer have these standard staggered keys. You'll notice this is in a grid format, and it's laid out straight down. Ben Valek has a very awesome YouTube channel, and I'll link his channel in the description of this video, but I've been watching a lot of his videos, and he actually goes into the science behind why a standard keyboard like a MacBook keyboard is staggered, and why that's an old arbitrary design that we don't need to follow anymore. Like, that's just, it's an old design, we can move past it now. Columnar, actually, it works a lot better with your fingers. Now, it's definitely hard to transition from the staggered keyboard to this, but I think it's worth it in the end. We'll have to see. It's only been 4 or 5 days, so I will let you know afterwards, if it's totally worth it. But up until this point, it's been tricky, but I'm actually starting to get the hang of this, and I think it's working quite well. Most of the software for this board and a lot of the hardware is open source, so you can actually use a lot of the stuff you already have to make a lot of this work. So obviously this is the left side, and this is kind of where everything plugs into. You'll notice there's a USB-C port here, and there's a TSSR, which is the TRRS, sorry, the tip ring sleeve 3.5 millimeter connector, which is just your standard headphone jack connector. And I've actually swapped this out for my own cable, which has a bit of a spring to it, so this will allow me to not only keep my wires more manageable, but also have the freedom to move my hands apart if I want to. This was the original wire that they use. Obviously it's the same sort of connectors, but it was quite long and kind of unmanageable. I like to keep my desk a little more minimalistic, so try to keep wires and stuff off of it. So if you're into that sort of thing, I would highly recommend looking into this sort of a cable connector, just because it'll save you a lot of space on your desk. It'll keep things from being disorganized, and it also gives you the freedom that the longer cable does, which is to move your hands wherever you want them. So the main cable for the Moonlander to connect it to your computer is USB-C, which is super cool. So you can use any old USB-C cable, although it does come with its own cable, and it also comes with this handy dandy little adapter, which goes from standard USB to USB-C. So you can just plug that on there. And I'm actually using this even though my MacBook has USB-C ports. I'm using this because I have an adapter, or I have a USB hub underneath that I plug everything else into. So that USB-C obviously wouldn't work. So I was super glad to see that they had shipped this in the box, which is really cool. So a few of the things that come in the box with the Moonlander is this really nifty carrying case that you can actually put both halves into. Nice little pockets. I actually haven't used this yet. And I'll get into a little bit later the tenting aspect, which personally kind of makes this carrying case not something I would use a lot, unless I were, taking this on vacation or packing it up for a trip or something like that. But if I were just, moving to a different workstation or moving from office to office or something like that, I don't know if I would use this very much, because it takes a lot of work to take down the Moonlander and then put it back together. But it is cool. It's even got its own, tag on it, which I think is super neat. And it also has a sleeve for the Allen wrench, which you'll use to adjust the tenting mechanisms, and we'll get into that in a second. Wouldn't be a great video if I didn't also show you the box that this came in, because the box is super cool. It's almost like if you were to get a Microsoft HoloLens box or an Apple product box. The box is so cool to me. So let's take a look at the box. First of all, the outside is super cool, and they did a really nice job with the logos on the side, all the lettering, super sturdy, and really neat when you look inside it. So yeah, that's the box. I know it's weird, but I think it's super cool. It also ships with a couple of different other accessories, and this all comes in the box. You don't even have to order them independently. It's all just there, which is really neat. First of all, it comes with this really cool tool, and it's got Moonlander on it, which just makes it cooler. And the tool has two sides, so they'll actually walk you through this if you go to the website that's on the box. But the first side is to take off the keycap. So you'll push this on the keycap and pull up, and the two arms on this will actually grab it and pull it off for you. Second half, or the other half, is to actually go on the sides of the key switch itself. And this I'm using Cherry MX Blues right now, which are like super clacky, so that's cool. You can get an array of key switches, and they'll ask you which mechanical key switches you want when you purchase this thing. So that's super cool. Again, all facets of this keyboard are super configurable. It's absolutely amazing. But anyways, this tool goes on the sides of the key switch, and then you pop it right out. Super easy. So very cool. And you also get a couple of extra keycaps in the bag. So there's an extra F and a J key in here. So those are the ones without the ridges. So if you have a different keyboard configuration that isn't QWERTY, then maybe having F and J with the ridges on the keys doesn't make a lot of sense, because that's not the home row anymore, right? So you can swap those out if you have a different configuration, and these come with the Moonlander. There's also an extra blank key. Let's see. There it is. It's a blank key. And the Moonlander has a lot of these blank keys, but this is an extra one just in case you need it. Again, everything about this board is completely configurable. It's so cool. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this keyboard with some hands on it and some typing action, and let's check out some of the layers that's involved too. Okay, so let's take a look at the Moonlander on the desk. So what I have going on here is I have an Apple Trackpad 2, and this works really well. I really love it. I'm quite attached to trackpads, actually. I tried using a mouse for about a month and just couldn't stand it. So the gestures and everything that comes with it are just, invaluable to me. So I was glad that I was able to use this with the split keyboard, because I can put it right in between the two, and it actually is a really good situation for me. So let's go ahead and connect this up. So first thing we'll do is we'll take our USB-C cable, and we will connect this here. So once that's plugged in, you'll notice the lights will turn on there. So there we go. We'll put this down, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab the coiled cable here. So this is our stretchy cable, and again, this is the cable that actually comes with the Moonlander. But I decided it was too long and just a little too clumsy, because I did have it kind of like bunched up, and I used this to kind of hold it together. It didn't really work that well. It was too bulky for my desk. So I found that I think this works a lot better. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug that in. So first side. Second side, plugs right into the top there, and now that is connected. And there was a little bit of an animation at the top. One really cool facet of this is there are actually three buttons here, or three LEDs here at the top, and those will actually tell you which layer you're on, up to obviously the third layer. And it's actually up to the fourth layer, because the first layer is technically layer 0, and then that's layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. So it'll show you the 4 layers. So I have this button, which actually puts me on layer 2. So if we click that, you'll notice that this light turns blue, indicating that I'm on layer 2. Also notice that I have LED changes in LED colors from layer 1 to layer 2. So you'll notice that again. I click that. Different colors. This is the same bluish green all the way through. I click this. Now we've got white keys all along the outside and blue keys on the inside. So you can configure all of that from the software, which is super cool. So you can set layer colors. You can set specific keys to be different colors on different layers. All of this stuff is configurable, which is so cool. So I also have a key over here that I've configured to move me onto layer 3. And so again, here's layer 3. It says layer 2, but as we know, this is starting on 0, so this is actually layer 3, which is really neat. So I'm a software engineer, and I'm actually a big fan of a text editor called Vim. And Vim has this really neat aspect of Vim is that you can move yourself using arrow keys, but you're not actually using arrow keys. You can use H, J, K, and L keys on your keyboard. And so this is particularly handy when you don't have arrow keys on your keyboard, which the Moonlander does not have specific keys for arrow keys. You do have these here, but I honestly don't use them. I think I've actually turned them into blank keys that don't do anything just because I'm not using them. So what I've done is I've actually created a dedicated layer to turn those into arrow keys. So what I'll do is I'll hold this button down. Notice every other key turns blank. The LEDs turn off. And now I've turned on the LEDs under the H, J, K, and L keys. I let go. You can also look at the indicator light here at the top, and that tells you that we are on layer 4. So, yeah, so I've set all that stuff up, and honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. You can go crazy on this. It's absolutely insane. The possibilities of this are absolutely limitless. What I've done is my second layer is actually all symbols. So this entire section here in blue, these are all symbol keys. So for instance, my X key is equal, and then I have all of my wrapping symbols going down the middle. So up here are my curly brackets, these are my hard brackets, and then in here there's my parentheses. So going all the way down, I have it like that. Again, that's just the way I configured it. You can configure this any way you want. That's what makes this so cool, and that's really what ergonomics is all about. So this is super, super cool. You can go crazy with this, and we're just talking about layers right now. What we're going to do is we're going to move on to actually talking about the tenting mechanism. So to tent this, you'll notice that there are actually Allen wrench holes here and here on each one, so obviously the other side over here. What you can do is you can loosen this by turning it normal direction, loosen this, and then you can actually move this around and fold it up however you want. This turns inward to loosen. So that's just something, if you get a Moonlander, these are a little tricky, but just know that they always turn inward or away from you. So even on this side, it wouldn't turn this direction towards you, it actually turns away from you to loosen. So you can do that. And notice this entire thumb cluster, you can move the whole thing, which is super neat. So if I were to pack this away, and I wanted to pack it away, I would undo all this, and then I would probably tighten it up again so it doesn't come undone in the bag, but maybe not. And then I can fold my, I can fold the wing underneath, and so now that's there. And everything is good to go. So we're ready to put this in the bag if we wanted to. So, putting it back where you had it is a little tricky. First of all, let's tighten this down a little bit. Perfect. So now this is tight. That's just where we want it. I like it so it doesn't move or wiggle at all, so we'll just make it just a little bit tighter, but I don't want to go too much with it. There we go. Next, what you'll do is you want to put this side of the board on the ground. So I'll go up to this top corner and I'll press down, and that tells me exactly where I need to put this. So I move this all the way down until it's touching. So now this entire side is touching the desk. When that side is down, this side is ready to go, and I'll just turn this towards myself to tighten it. So you'll just do that a few times. Once you've done that, this is stable right here, so I can hold this, and it's bearing the entire weight. So it only took 2 turns, really, 2 or 3 turns to get this down. So there's that exact same thing on the other side, and you can test this by putting some pressure on the wing. That's what I found actually works well. You put some pressure on there, check this corner, make sure it's down. Looks like this moved a little bit, so I'll just need to tighten this up just a bit. But you'll figure all this kind of stuff out as you go if you end up getting a Moonlander, which I would highly recommend. So yeah, there we go. That is tented, and now we've moved from being flat on the desk to this angle, which interestingly enough, I wasn't sure exactly how different that angle would be, but it actually is very, very nice. Your hands, after a while, they go to the desk and they just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a magnet. They just go right to the keyboard and sink into that space. It's quite beautiful, and it fits very, very well. So very elegant, and I personally think that it works very, very well. thank you everyone very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I kind of created this video just because I personally was looking on YouTube for Moonlander videos and people reviewing them, and I just wasn't seeing a lot of them. Ben Valek did some incredible videos on that. I would highly recommend you check them out. If this video didn't convince you to get a Moonlander, that channel and his videos definitely will. So I would highly recommend checking out his channel and a whole bunch of his videos. He's got some amazing stuff on there. So also, thank you very much for watching. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'm hoping to put out a lot more of these kind of videos, doing some desk tours, talking about my setup as a software engineer, and just some of the tools that I find handy and use, especially during what's happening now in 2020. I'm working from home. I've kind of had to move everything around, and I've figured out a lot of things that I know some other people are still trying to figure out. So if I can be helpful in that, I'd love to. So like and subscribe. I'll be posting a lot more of those videos, hopefully shortly. If you are thinking about getting a Moonlander or have gotten one and you're waiting for it to come in, or you have it and you're so excited and you enjoy using it and you want tips, don't forget to leave a comment on this video. I'd love to hear from you about what your favorite part of the Moonlander is, or what you're looking forward to, or maybe why you wouldn't get one. Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested in talking to you about that. This whole world of mechanical keyboards is brand new to me, so I'm very excited to jump in, and it's a whole new world, so it's very, very interesting stuff. Alright, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.